Welcome to another Todd's
2-Minute Tech Tip Tuesday.
Brought to you by the National RV Training Academy, the largest hands-on RV training academy in America. Hey, before we get to the video, which I know this is the reason why you're here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss anything. Hit the subscribe button now. Thank you. Now, back to our Tech Tip Tuesday. Hey, this week, let's go over the top 7 tips for your absorption-style refrigerator. Hey, number 1, you've always heard that refrigerator needs to stay level, and I'm sure you're probably wondering why. Well, on the back of that refrigerator are some coils, okay? Now, inside those coils, we do have ammonia, and with the ammonia, we have water. And water and metal really don't mix, right? We're gonna get corrosion over time. So in those coils, they have a substance called sodium chromate. Guys, just think of it like this. It's like little bitty fine powder. Well, it coats those coils, okay? In order to coat the coils, as the refrigerator's in cooling process, it kind of floats up with some of that water vapor or whatnot, and it comes back down and coats it. In order for it to come back down, it rides down those coils, and those coils are slightly askew, so it can just slowly rock its way down. Well, if your RV is not level, let's say it's just off center, just by, a couple inches at 40 foot or whatever, well, then the refrigerator, that small slope now just becomes less gradual, right? And so now that sodium chromate slows down. The problem is if it doesn't move along with the water, it stays still. And of course, if you ever touch those coils, they're hot. Well, what's going to happen over time is that sodium chromate will kind of crystallize. Basically, it creates a block. Well, if it creates a block, then of course that ammonia can't make its, cycle, ends up ruining your coil. So, yes, you want to keep it level. Now, some people will ask, well, if I'm traveling down the road, can I still use the refrigerator on electric? Because you got a system for that. Does that hurt the coils? No, shaking the coils isn't the problem. It's maintaining, a level coil over time. So if you're off level and you're sitting still, it's hard to say the amount of time it takes, whether it's just a couple days. The longer it is, the greater chance you're going to ruin it. But traveling down the road is totally fine, okay? I also get the question, well, if I'm not using it, I'm storing the RV, do I have to make those coils level? No, all that stuff is going to be down at the bottom in the absorber vessel. It's when in use, that you need to be level or traveling down the road. So that's the first tip. Let's look at tip number 2. All right, here's one that pretty much sucks, and that is maintaining those seals. With an absorption-style refrigerator, actually all refrigerators, when you close the door, that should be a sealed system, hence the term seals. What we don't want entering in there is warm, moist air. Well, of course, we know warm air is going to ruin the temperature. But if there's moisture vapors in the air, that ends up on the food, right? Warm air, moist air hits a cold surface, you get condensate. So they have seals. The problem is with these absorption-style refrigerators, over the years, the seals get loose, everything else. If you put something sticky up there and you open and close that door and there's a sticky substance right here that's going to pull apart, basically the seal will lose its memory and it gets deformed. So what you want to do on a regular basis, once a month or something like that, is get a good clean on the seals, but also clean the refrigerator where the seals make contact. Clean both sides, make sure that they're dust-free once a month, and also tacky-free. You don't want anything tacky sticking on there. So that's the second thing. Maintain those seals to get a good, proper working refrigerator. Number 3. Here we go. Now, with the absorption-style refrigerator, there's typically no moving air. The worst thing that we can do is fill the refrigerator with warm food, okay? When you put warm food in there, it will take hours to actually get back down to operating temperature. As a matter of fact, brand new refrigerator sitting at ambient temperature in the room can take up to 12 hours to get to temperature. Now I'm talking an absorption-style refrigerator, not your residential, not the compressor style, the absorption style, up to 12 hours, right? Because we're absorbing the heat and that takes time. So pre-chill your food and never fill it up with warm food the day that you're traveling if you're not going to use a refrigerator, right? Because that's just going to spoil it. Another thing, big question, do you put in hot leftovers? Well, Here's the thing, if you're putting in leftovers, you're a freaking quitter. And you might as well just quit RVing. Don't put hot leftovers in there. Quit, stop making so much food, or pick up the fork and finish it, right? Heat runs to cold. You stick hot food in there, all the other food is going to start raising its temperature, right? Because the heat is running to all the other cold food. So don't stick in your hot leftovers. So now let's get over to the freezer. Tech tip number 4, defrost regularly, right? Again, every single time you open that freezer, you're introducing warm, moist air. Well, that warm, moist air touches the back of the freezer, and that's where you get that ice. So you need to defrost regularly. Now, here's the thing. You'll see that ice doesn't help pulling the heat out of the food, right? It's actually blocking the heat transfer, so we don't want that ice on there in the first place. Best thing to do, don't stick in warm food, especially if it's steaming. That's all going to end up there as ice. Secondly, don't go shopping, right? Know what you want before you open the door. Well, how do I know what I want if I don't know what's back there? Well, sucks to be you. Know what you have in your freezer, right? Just, in other words, don't open it up and just stand there and look. The longer you do that, the more ice potentially will build up in the back. Lastly, and a lot of you want to put some type of thin surface on the back so that way the ice connects to the thin surface. A lot of people will do small cutting boards, not the wood type, but the thin plastic type. Also saran wrap. If you can get the saran wrap to stick on the back when the ice forms, you can pull the saran wrap off. It's an easy way to do it. The one thing you don't want to do, well, two things you don't ice pick it. You'll ruin the freezer. And don't use a hair dryer, okay? That plastic backer is connected to a freeze plate, okay? And it's on there tight. If you heat this up with a hair dryer or something like that, it's going to delaminate. And that little air gap is going to cause performance issues, okay? So don't do that. Number 5, and this is a pretty big one, don't overpack the refrigerator with food, okay? We understand that heat runs to cold and heat rises. Well, I want you to fill up the refrigerator, but at the backside, leave a couple inches so that way the heat can actually rise. The cooling coils on that absorption-style refrigerator, the evaporator fins, are up top. If I put warm food down here and I've got packed full of food right here, well, then that heat's gonna stay right here. Right? What I want is for the heat to be able to go on either side of the food back up to these coils. So go ahead and fill it up, but leave an inch or two from the back wall so that way that heat can get up and find those fins up top. So don't overpack your food, right? However, when you're traveling days, the more food you have at temperature in there, allowing for the air, the longer it will stay at temperature and the less it'll go through the cool cycle. That's number 5. And number 6, tech tip number 6, is that drain tube. There's a condensate drain tube in the refrigerator, okay? Because when that warm, moist air touches those fins, right, you're gonna get condensate. That falls into a drip tray going at the drip tube. Well, that drip tube is on the outside of the refrigerator, going all the way outside. So it's susceptible to losing the cap on the end, which allows hot air to go in. That drip tube can also fail, become brittle, and break. So you need to inspect it from time to time. Now here's the thing. If you're experiencing a lot of sweaty food, and let's say your grapes are sweating, come on, let's face it, no one likes sweaty grapes. That's letting you know there's too much air inside the refrigerator, right? If you checked your seals and the seals are absolutely fine and closed and everything you have there, one thing you want to inspect is that drip tube out the back. If it has been compromised, failed, otherwise the cap has come off, then warm air is going up that cap, hitting the cold surfaces, turning to condensate. So in order to keep your grapes dry, keep your tube well maintained. Tip number 7, okay, let's go ahead and hit those exhaust caps. It can be a chimney cap, or if your refrigerator's in a slide out, you have the upper exhaust manifold, right? Now, what this is cool air, right? Relatively cool air comes in from the bottom access port and goes across those coils. And what it does, heat runs to cold, hits the cooler air, right? Heat transfers over. It needs a place to go, right? We need to pull the heat out of those coils, right? The heat from the food and the heat from the burning assembly heat up those coils. They both meet up there. We want to move that heat out, okay? And if your exhaust, whether it's going to be a chimney exhaust or if it's going to be the slide-out exhaust, if there's blockage there, that heat stays there, right? Really reduces the performance of your refrigerator. Warm days above 85 degrees, you're going to see that your refrigerator doesn't get the temperature. If the refrigerator is working like an ace in the winter, but doesn't seem to be doing too well in the summer, airflow problem. You want to try and get that heat out, so you need to inspect that. Keep that clean, free of debris, and you should have a good working refrigerator. There's your tech tip. All right, before you get to the bloopers, which is why you're here in the first place, the RV industry needs thousands of RV technicians and inspectors, and now is the perfect time to do that. If you want to make more money or have more control over your time, go ahead and click the link below. Or if you just want to learn how to fix your own RV, got something for you there. Head over to rvtechcourse.com and get started today.
Now for the reason that you're at the end of the video, roll the bloopers.
I don't know what the humidity is like, but this is like flyaway today. We're going to go over the top 7 concerns you have with, yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying there. With, let's go over this. Keep your drapes. So keep your outside. If you're let's go over the side.